this is the red lens and this is the blue lens. 99% of people are walking around with the red lens on. And this is the weird thing. They're not making anything up. This is what people do not understand about how this amazing world works. At the same time, if you put on the red lens, you will see everything going wrong in your life. And you're not making anything up. It's all true. But if you put on the blue lens, remember, all that stuff is still happening, but now everything you see is through the lens of kindness and gratitude. And then all of a sudden you see all of God's miracles of provision. You're like, oh my God, oh my God. What? The van. This year's van. Okay, we bootstrapped this out of our Prius last year. So a bike hitch, okay, and then a cargo bag on top of the Prius, okay, and then Rebecca and I literally sleeping in the back of the Prius on an inflatable, like full size mattress, okay, and then half the time, we had those like hatchback tents. It was like a 10 by 10 room. It would be like on the back, and so it was like this really cool like little tent experience. But every day we were in a different town because I stopped every day, and so like literally we're set up and tear down of camp last year. Every day was 2 to 4 hours a day. Okay. And I'm not kidding. Okay. 2 to 4 hours. And so I was talking to Rebecca about this, and I said, I really think we have to do like a van conversion on this thing, man. I just feel like it's going to help. And I've done all my research, and I was like, I've decided, because out of the 3 vans you do conversions with, it's a Mercedes Sprinter, a Ford Transit, or the Ram ProMaster. And I was already like, first of all, I'm like the most frugal dude I know. And I literally am the laziest dude I know. So I quite literally like hate wasting time. And so I literally was like, okay, I'm going in and I told Beck, I think we got to do this ProMaster. And I was like, okay, we have clients of ours that have little auto dealerships. I was like, they can score me a van through the auction. And then I found a couple places that do conversions, like a great place in Colorado and a couple of places. I was like, okay, probably 20 to 30 grand to do the conversion. Okay. And so, but I decided I'm going to do a Ram ProMaster because out of the 3 vans, the ProMaster is the widest. It's as long as you're 6'2" or under, you can sleep long ways, which means your bed doesn't have to be long, it can be wide, and it frees up more space in the interior. And so
100%.
knowing this, I'm going to be doing a Ram ProMaster conversion. Okay. So then this is not 1% exaggerated. I'm on the phone with one of our clients. Okay. Again, we do small business accounting. And so, and we do a weekly radio show. Okay. So, and we do a weekly radio show and podcast, and we just teach business and retirement planning to our amazing clients, which are small business owners. Right. So now, I'm on the phone with them, and it's he and his wife. It's Doug and Melissa. I always like to give them huge props because they're amazing. And so we're talking on the phone, and they're like, oh, we did a little stalking on you, and we saw your bike ride. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's great and all that. But I said, next year, you have no concept of how long it takes to set up and tear down camp every day, because it's tents and all this crap. And I said, so I kind of already decided on next year to really save the sanity on this. I've got to do a conversion. And they both start smiling. Okay. Mind you, I don't know why. When I tell you this stuff, this is exactly how it happens. We're on Zoom just like this, and they start smiling. And I'm like, okay, what joke am I missing? And then Doug says, well, Aaron, we didn't tell you this, but a few years ago, the company I was working at, I was an executive. They got sold. I wasn't an owner, but they gave me a huge severance. And so I had to make a decision. Do I take the severance and I just basically rolled in my retirement plan and go back into corporate America, or do what I always wanted to do and start doing van conversions? And he said, we do van conversions. We only do Ram ProMasters. And he said, and he goes, yeah, he goes, and we're kind of unique because he goes, I go and buy the van at the auction. I pass the auction price to you. And then we just charge like a flat $40K to do the conversion, full conversion, boondock ready. And I always say, it's like, it's like, I don't know, boondock chic. Like the van is designed by women for women. Okay. And so, so we're talking, and he goes, oh yeah. He goes, no problem. We can have it. And I said, well, I've got a new bike that I'm going to be using for this year's bike ride. And it's actually called a Velomobile. They're huge in over in Europe because petrol's so expensive. And he said, so
they are.
Yeah. And he goes, so and so he goes, so yeah, I said, but I'm going to need to adjust my bed up a few inches to make sure my bike can slide underneath it. He goes, yeah, no problem. And so we do it, we build it, and I am not kidding. The bike, it literally slides right underneath. So now, set up and tear down, okay, is pop the back doors, right? Rebecca and I like lift the bike, we slide it in. I hook up my hose, I spray off because everything I wear is basically bathing suit, because I don't know. Well, in April, 25% of the time it was raining.
Those
And so,
suits, those bike suits you see, is that what you
oh
mean?
yeah,
Or rain
no,
gear?
no, like
Right.
more like sweat wicking, like athletic shirts, and I always wear swim trunks,
Yeah.
and my shoes are
Oh,
water
okay.
shoes. So I'm literally, when you see me at all times on the ride, I can literally just be in water in 1 second. Everything that I wear is waterproof for that. And
Yeah.
so, but then
Makes
watch
sense.
this.
Makes
So then
sense.
we go into, you just watched another miracle. Okay. And so he turns out the van, he's got the banks involved and they finance the whole thing for us. Okay. The van, the conversion, everything. Okay. And then, okay, so then we go to the bike. Okay. Now, when you go to ponzirelief.org, you'll see pictures of last year's bike. Okay. And that bike is right now in the living room with a trainer on it. And in between meetings, I'm usually on that thing, pedaling. And so, but I knew going into this year that I needed to make sure that I didn't end up like, I needed a different bike that gave me more aerodynamic ability and gave me more like real estate where I could put my cause and everything on it. And so I kind of knew a velomobile is where I needed to go. Now, if you know anything about velomobiles, they kind of look like blinking bobsleds. So just imagine like a bobsled going down the road on 3 or 4 wheels. And so I've got this velo, and but here's the thing, like I told you before, last year, I literally, my bike broke 5 times. And you have to make sure that you've got a normal bike shop that knows how to work on these bikes. And so of all the velomobiles, okay, they're all carbon fiber. Like my bike's 15
Yep.
grand. Okay. It looks like a
Yeah, I
Batmobile.
know Velo. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I ended up, there's only one manufacturer called WOW, W-A-W. And what they do is they make the front and rear fairings where they just screw on and screw off. They're the only ones that do it. So it's 9 screws in the front, 9 screws in the back, and literally the fairings pull apart, and a bike mechanic has full access to all the gearing. They're the only manufacturer that does that. And I knew because of my ride, knowing I need any bike shop being able to get to this if it breaks, that's the bike I needed. Okay, but there's not that many for sale. You can go to like the WOW, the Velomobile forums for sale, and literally there's not that many for sale. And I knew there was one that I had my heart on that was built in 2019 by a guy in California. And if you just Google blue WOW, W-A-W Velo, and just hit images, you'll see that's my bike. That blue one is my bike, okay? And so I wanted
I
that
got to
one.
do that.
So I'm literally on the forums, and I see my blue WOW for sale. I say mine, the one that I've been eyeballing for years, okay?
Okay.
And so it's for sale. And here's the thing, on the forums, I don't know where the guy's located, okay? But I can see from the ad, when I was able to click from before in 2019, it showed me the guy that sold it, that built it and then sold it. In there, he said, "Oh, I sold it to a guy named Chris out of Texas." And so now that same bike is for sale. And so I sent him an email. Hey, I saw, and it was for sale like a few months ago. And I was like, I saw the blue WOW Velo for sale. Is it still for sale? And it sort of looked like you're in Texas. Fingers crossed. I'm kind of based out of Texas, And he goes, yep, still for sale. And I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I was like, what? Bro, I'm not even kidding. Okay. And this dude's like, oh yeah, come out, take a look. This was his daily driver. He's a corporate pilot. And for years, he taught flight sim at DFW Airport. He lives in Highland Village. And so he's like, it's a good, 20, 25 mile commute. And this was his daily commute to and from work every day. And so, like, this dude's 6'6", 300 pounds. This dude slides in this thing like a freaking F1 car. And I'm like, what? How's this? It's like a freaking clown car. You would never in 1,000 years understand what this thing holds. It doesn't make any sense. On Mother's Day, I went to HEB, got this huge bouquet of flowers for my wife. And I took my bike to the grocery store, and it always carries a crowd. And they're like, right. Where the hell are those flowers going? They are not going in this bike. And I was like, watch. And you pull the back seat up, and there's this cavern back there, bro. And you just take those flowers, pop, full bouquet, spread out wide, all back there behind the freaking back seat, bro.
Wow.
Amazing. But I'm telling you, each and every thing for this ride, everything. And that's a big thing. I told you before, I was in ministry for 10 years, and I pastored for 7 of those 10 years.
Right.
And one of the biggest lessons, aside from how God does miracles with miracles of provision, but probably the the biggest lesson I've had to learn is God's timing, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
have the right idea, but if it's the right idea at the wrong time, it's the wrong idea. Y- you have to wait. And I've always been that guy where I have these visions that it becomes a burden. So the only way the burden goes away is the vision has to happen, and then I can kind of move on. And but the thing is when you start walking in that timing, if you're not careful, you can push it faster than it's supposed to happen, and then you get out of the right timing. So right idea, but if the timing's wrong, it's the wrong idea. And so I really have had to learn to just be patient and wait and watch him. And he does every single time, just like I told you with the van, just like I told you with the bike. My first bike on the website, that's a TerraTrike Traveler. It's a recumbent trike that you fold in half. Okay, so my original idea was
Oh
I would
wow.
have it on the back, folded in half on the Prius. It's the only one that you can fold. It's foldable to travel with. So I went in and basically um, that bike is $2,500 period. And I happened to be on Craigslist on a Saturday morning, and I just did Travelers and the Traveler, recumbent trike, and I see this thing for sale in Houston. Okay, and he said $700. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay, so I call the dude, and this is what there's. Okay, Houston, there's a huge um, industry of engineers down there because of oil and gas. Okay, like
Yeah.
1 out of 10 companies is somehow working for oil and gas, and there's an enormous amount of engineers down there. So here's what
Yep.
I'm hoping. So I text the dude 7 o'clock in the morning, hoping this dude's up. Okay, saw your bike. Can you chat? I'm up. I can chat. And so we're chatting, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, I lived in a gated neighborhood before." I was like, "Okay, sounds like this dude had a legit job." Okay, and he goes, "I said, so what do you do?" He goes, "I'm an engineer." I'm like, "Oh my god, score." Okay, which you understand. I am being a little
Yeah.
judgmental and discriminatory, but usually when you buy something from an engineer, chances are pretty decent. They took pretty good care of it. Okay, probably
Absolutely.
engineered some things that they didn't like about it. Okay, so
Probably.
all positive stuff. So I'm like, yep. I'm literally, my wife is going to be waking up in a few minutes. As soon as she wakes up, I'm going to kiss her and say, I'm going to Houston. I'm getting this bike. So I literally, my wife wakes up. I'm like, babes, this bike, it's $2,500. This dude's selling it for $700. I'm telling you right now, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I said, I got to go. And I said, because there's a huge snowstorm coming in tomorrow. And I felt that this would be gone. I just felt it. I was like, I have to jump on this. So he and I had a
Wait,
conversation.
wait, whoa. There was a huge snowstorm
Yes.
in
Yeah.
Houston?
No. Dallas, Fort Worth, and Texas. Yeah. Houston froze. This is the one from like 3 years ago.
Wow.
It was
Oh, I remember that.
the
It
big,
was
big ice storm. Like it was,
Arctic blast.
Ice
The
Mageddon.
Arctic blast. Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
Arctic blast went all the way down to
Yeah, okay.
Galveston. Okay, so I knew that was coming, and I was like, I have got to get to the road. So I jump in the car, I sprint down there, and I worked out a deal because I was like, Rebecca, we got to make sure we Zell him. We get down there. He's an older dude. He's gonna take Venmo or Cash App or anything. No problem. She goes, just whenever you get close, just call me. I'll be ready to go. Cool, babe. So we get down there, and I'm looking at this. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like again, an emotional moment because I've had this vision and image and it literally overlapped. And when that happens, I get overwhelmed with emotion. And I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. I need this bike. I'm not leaving without this bike. And I tell him I'm doing for the bike ride. And he goes, how the heck can you take that time off? I said, well, we own accounting offices and we're just super blessed, but we always leave after tax season. And he goes, okay, cool. And so I'm like calling my wife. She's not answering again. Mm-hmm. Not answering again. Mm-hmm. 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 Again. Oh
Uh-oh.
my God. She had mentioned she was going to take a nap. And when she does that, she always puts her phone in do not disturb. Okay. And I'm like, oh my word. And I was like, please, Lord, tell me you have Venmo. He's like, I don't. He was, but maybe one of my kids. And I was like, okay, please go check. He goes and asks his daughter. His daughter has Venmo. Thank God. So I Venmo her the money. And so, and then literally on the way back, the guy calls me. He goes, you're not going to believe this. I got 2 more calls after you picked up the bike of people that wanted to come and pick up the bike because they knew it was the steal of the year. And I was able to grab it. And
Wow.
that's the crazy thing about this. God opens these doors. And again, this is my life. This is not me preaching whatsoever. This is just me reporting what I've noticed is that you like these moments happen. And I feel like a lot of times people feel like, well, if it's a real miracle, it's just supposed to literally just drop on my lap from a drone like that. But the thing is, but that's not how. How could you possibly think that when you go look at the model of Jesus? And what did he tell the disciples? Go, and then you'll watch the miracle provision. Go, and then watch the miracle. So they all had to leave, and they all got signed here. They got a sign there. They got a sign there, but they had to take the first steps. So I've got 1,000 of these stories, but it's only because I took the steps of faith, and he's done this so many freaking times in my life. I now know exactly what it looks like. I know, like everything. When this happens, I just know, and I learn not to fight it. I just don't argue with it. I'm like, okay, fine, and I will swear. Me and God will swear. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, fine, I'm going to do that. It's going to be weird because anytime he basically speaks, it's always weird. I never want to do it, and it's always very uncomfortable for me. Always, it's something I never want to do, and that's how I freaking know it's my boy. You know, it's my boy. You know.
All right, now we are going to break down